Can you help put into perspective what biology and archaeology tells us about the real timelines of civilized indigenous humanity?
Yes. First, I want to state that I don't like our idea of civilization because most civilization doesn't seem that civilized.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing civil about it. I was told once by a professor that they count civilization as when there is an abundance of food. And I like that idea. I also think that civilization is when you are capable of caring for the people of your group, when you have enough to make sure that everybody is cared for. I believe that when you stop caring for the people of your group, you stop being civilized. So for me, I think that the real timeline of civilization for indigenous humanity really goes very far back. I personally see that a lot of times people like to think of Neanderthal or Denisovan or early Homo sapien as being cavemen, as not having, capability. Every tool that we have today is built on the foundations that they built. And they just like, 100 years ago, nobody was sitting around going, God, I wish I had a cell phone. They had the world in front of them, right? They had this beauty in front of them. So to me, the real timeline goes back to our development of burial and art and identity. So to me, we start identifying when we start decorating ourselves, when we start thinking that there is the body remaining and the soul departs, or that the body is an individual that needs to be buried so we can come back to them, or so that we can care for them even after death. And when we start painting our world around us, start decorating our world around us, because we can see the relationship between us and the other beings around us. So paleoanthropologically, we date that roughly like 90 to 100,000 years ago for the very start of that. I think that we start to see medicine in Neanderthals at like 50, 60,000 years ago. And we see actually a full foot amputation that's better than the foot amputations that we do now at 31,000 years ago in Borneo. So for me, the real timeline of indigenous civilization everywhere is starting at 100,000 years ago, when we start to become communities that care for each other, communities that see identity within community and see identity of individual. Though I must state always that identity of individual doesn't mean, yay, I'm a unique butterfly. What it means is I have talents and I have things that I bring to the table that contribute to my community. And so I think when we see that is when we start to see civilization. When we're looking at indigenous civilizations, when we're tracing the current indigenous civilizations or the current indigenous peoples that we have across the globe, it will fluctuate from place to place. I just saw a video going over a lot of the new finds, and it mentioned that with the DNA, they are now, so they can trace back generations to find the mitochondrial root, like a mitochondrial Eve or a Y atom. So they can trace the unique DNA signatures here in North America and South America back 52,000 years ago now. So for me, the civilization here in the Americas starts at 52,000 years ago. What is coming over at this time is civilized groups of people who are migrating, who are possibly immigrating. If we're looking at, which I do believe that Homo erectus had made it here and speciated here, and that we enveloped that Homo erectus group that had speciated into our own when we get here. And so I think that civilization here starts that long ago. I think that when we look at like the Sami, we can trace their civilization in their area back to 7,000 years ago. When we look at the Amagaza of North Africa, they might be over 100,000 years in that civilization, right? So, well, not over 100,000 years if we're looking at it 90 to 100 at the start, but like they might have that civilization that is stretched back that far. So I think when we look at civilization as those levels, those are kind of the dates that we're looking at. If we look at civilization like building cities, If we look at civilization like agriculture, be it Western agriculture or non-Western agriculture, non-monolithic crop agriculture, we can trace civilization along the Nile to 18,000 years ago. The first cities along the Nile are being built roughly, I think the first cemetery I've seen along the Nile is 20,000 years ago. When we're looking here, we can, the city that they just found in Miami that they're digging up, that there's that fight in Miami right now, that's 7,000 years ago. I don't remember the date line or the dating on the Inca, but I know that we can trace them back pretty far. When we're looking at nations here in Turtle Island, we're looking at the Mississippian complex. God, I want to say that that's 9,000 years ago, maybe 8,000 years ago, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So we're dating here for civilizations, for city building, at least 10,000 years ago, though again, we are here much longer. And then when we look at what is going on when the Europeans arrive, what we do see is a vast number of spaces that there are vast civilizations of cities. And I think that that is also always important to recognize. Cities that are cleaner, cities that take care of their people better than most of the European nations that got here at the time.